Hello, welcome back. Now, today I bring you a special one that takes me quite a bit of time to do. So bear with me if it's a bit longer, and I'll try to talk faster. Maybe that'll help. Today is a shootout video. Haven't done one of these in a while because of the amount of time it takes. But I found I had some time, and I just happened to have the opportunity. Again, thank you to our little group. A bunch of friends from Canada getting together, sharing some stuff. And I had the Kiwiears melody here. So I also just reviewed the NiceHCK F1 PRO Planar. And I just also got in the ARTTI T10. So let's talk about these three. So there's the Melody, the T10, and the F1 Pro. Now let's start off with the T10 for a second, the latest greatest. Now I was going to do just a video on this, but I think it will kind of go over all of it straight up when we get through this. So this ARTTI T10, another Volk Choi IM, let sure. So this one is a 14.2 millimeter. This is not an S12, by the way. And it has a 16.5 ohm impedance, 96 dB. So not the most sensitive, but at least it has a decently low impedance, so won't be terrible to drive. In fact, when I was doing a comparison to all of these, I didn't really have to channel match too much. So take that into account. Now this little bad boy, the T10, is the least expensive at $69 retail. Going on sale for $55.20 on the Volk Choi website. Now, when this video hits, F1 Pro, NiceHCK, without this cable, $99 going on sale for $89 in about 12 hours. So tomorrow, when this video hits. The Melody, $89, $86 sale price. So pretty comparable, but the T10 will be $30 less on sale. The one difference too, so the F1 Pro is also 14.2, just like the T10, and the Melody is the one that's different at a 12 millimeter planar, real planar still. 18 ohm impedance, 102 dB, and the F1 Pro, again, very close, 16 ohms, 104 dB. This is the most sensitive. Easiest to drive is the F1 Pro from NiceHCK. That one I stated in my video, just as a recap, that I thought this was the best planar to date that I have heard. Now, let me give you a little bit of context into this shootout video to help break it down. Now, I used the same most resolving source, so I use my desktop stack, chair stack actually, downstairs. So this one consists of a Gishelli Labs J2. This is the 4493 version, which is very clean, very linear, very uncolored. And I put some Sparkos Pro SS 2590 op amps in that one. That's being fed to a topping A90 discrete amplifier. So very, very clean, very uncolored source. And to make this fair, I used all the stock cables and I used all the same tips. And this is important in this context because I wanted to do an ABC. So when I do these shootouts, I am basically not going by memory. I am randomly picking songs on my DAP, and whatever song comes up, I listen to the Melody, the T10, the F1 Pro. Melody, T10, F1 Pro. rinse and repeat, probably 2-3 times per song to get my impressions. And then I wrote down some of my thoughts on how that IM played that song. And then I rated bass, mids, treble, warm, how warm it was, imaging, and resolution. And when I'm going to do a spider graph here, so bass is, on a 1 to 10 scale. Mids, how did it do on a 1 to 10 scale for accuracy and tonality? Treble, same thing. How did I rate the treble overall? The warm scale, I put 5 would be neutral, and 10 would be on the warmest. And same as imaging. How did it do on imaging? Left, right, stereo separation, that kind of stuff. And finally, resolution, which would be micro details and the nuances that you could pick up. So that's kind of how I did it. Now, that being said, with this shootout, I know from playing around that if I ditched the ARTTI T10 cable, that I would get better results. They do have upgraded cables, and this is the one I've seen before with Let Sure. It's a nice looking cable, comes in even 4.4, but I found that this IM, for me, to make it sound better, would need a brighter source, so ESS for me on this, and a brighter cable. And the tips of my fave were these Fayoul H570 tips. But for all three of these, I used the same ASLA tips, just so I could get impression, and I wouldn't try to color it in any way, if that makes sense. Now, the same thing with this F1 Pro. And a couple of these songs, I found it, the treble edging to me just a little bit too much. And that's because, again, I like this more on a warm source. And the cable was fantastic pairing, but I liked it on a warmer source. And I also liked it on a ASLA crystal tip better as well. As for the melody, you can only do so much with cables, tips, and sources. And it's just a really dark, warm IM. Even with my absolute best, brightest cable, the IVIPQ pure silver palladium cable. It's about a $90 US cable on sale. Even with that and some, again, ASLA crystal tips to bring out the bass and keep all the highs, I still find it's very relaxed on the top end. Politically nice and correct. It's kind of interesting on these whole three, and I'll sum it up in the end, but just to give you an idea, there's 3 flavors of IMs that I have, these 3, where the F1 Pro would be the most resolving, the most neutral sounding, most accurate mids and vocals, and the nicest bass. In the shootout, the T10 would be one step down in tonality for its warmth, so a little bit warmer, and the most balanced out of all 3. And the melody was the most colored, darkest, warmest IM. I think second best for bass. But let's really get into the shootout. Let's talk about, and we're going to do it this way, or I'm going to do it this way, and hopefully you're still listening. So I picked a song randomly, and again, listened to all 3, and then I did my overall kind of thoughts on this particular track, and I did I wrote down about 5 tracks, because I wrote down 5 tracks. I listened to a lot more, but in order for this video not to be an hour long, I won't tell you that. By the end of all of this, I had an extremely good sense of all 3 IMs and how they compared against each other. And I'm doing this shootout in case you were thinking about picking up a Planar and which one would be best for you. So let's start off. Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus, getting this one started off. The melody that... here we go. We're always going to start with this little melody here. I thought the bass was great and very, very smooth vocals. You can say that about all of the songs and tracks. The vocals are very relaxed and laid back, not in your face. Definitely there's no upper, mids, and treble shouting at you. And they're definitely not a forward sounding IM. I thought the bass was standout on this track in regards to Planar, right? None of these 3 IMs really come close to a dynamic driver, in my opinion. They're getting closer, but they're not there. So out of these Planars, I rated this bass as a 10, just to give you some context. And mids were a 5 because they were very colored, though they sounded great. Treble was also 5. It's actually very, very relaxed. Warm scale, top of the scale, 10. Imaging, decent as an 8, and resolution 5. I found they were quite warm, but the muted highs led to excellent bass response. Now, ARTTI T10. Less warm than the melody, better highs, and cymbal strikes sounded a little bit tame still. And the bass is less cohesive. It's definitely takes... This is a more of a natural... more of a balance set where the bass isn't overriding the highs and the highs aren't overriding the bass and the mids. So more of a balanced set, but I still found the cymbal strikes in this song to be less than what I thought was ideal. Okay, so the bass I rated as a 7, and again on the spider graph it'll kind of show you overall. Mids were a 7, so I thought the mids were definitely an improvement, and the treble was an improvement over the melody. On the warm scale, north of neutral for sure, on about an 8, where neutral would be a 5, and stage 6, resolution 6. So kind of interesting that had a little bit better resolution, but not as good as imaging as the melody. Now, F1 Pro. Cleaner vocals, the least warm. I would say that the vocals with that stack was very, very neutral in its tonality. It wasn't warm, it wasn't airy and dry, it wasn't in your face, and it wasn't recessed. So very natural, very balanced overall. Bass is tighter, faster, and more authoritative than the T10 for sure, and it edges out the melody in quality of bass, though they both pretty much had the same quantity of bass. Definitely the most energetic of the 3, but it had also the most micro details. So I rated the bass again as a 9, which is funny. I thought it was better than the melody, but I guess I didn't think so. Mids were perfect 10, and treble was a perfect 10 on this track, bringing out all the nuances and details. Warm 5, perfectly neutral. Stage 7, resolution 8. So overall, on this one particular track, I liked the vocals the best on the T10. Slightly warm over the more tonally correct F1. Bass was best on melody. Oh, there you go. I did write it in my notes. Treble and stage went to the F1. So that was song number 1. Let's do song number 2, Hate Me by Ellie Goulding. Came up. Melody, deep bass, slow, old school kind of thump. Laid back mids and smooth replay with warm vocals and laid back highs. Bass again rated quite high at 9, mid 6, treble 5, warm 9 on the high scale. Stage was a 5 and resolution was a 5, so average. T10, less authoritative bass again than the melody. Very nice vocals, still a bit warm, but close to neutral, just slightly colored. Bass was a 7, so it didn't quite hit the melody. The mids were a 9, so a big step up from the melody. Treble, again, a 7 out of 10. Warm scale, again, 2 notches north of neutral at a 7. Stage is 6, resolution 6. So F1 Pro, here we go. Bass is the level of the melody, but more and more authoritative. Vocals seem to be the most accurate and tonally correct, male and female on this track. Bass was a 10, mids were a 10, treble were a 10, warm 5, perfectly neutral, stage and resolution both 7. So obviously the F1 Pro played this one track really well. Overall, the F1 just made this track pop, the most correct. T10 hits my preference better with a slightly warmer vocals, probably the most balanced out of the 3. Melody takes the mellow to the maximum mellow level. Next track, Enter the Sandman. This is a very cool track by Yon San Na. Vocals on this track are amazing. The recording quality is amazing. Very difficult track to bring out the nuances, and this was evident in this one as well. Now, this is where Planar should shine, unless you've... Let's go into it. Melody, warm and gooey, thick and chill. Missing the bite and the guitar strums on how I know they should sound. Bass was a 7, mids 5, treble 4, warm 10 again, stage 5, resolution 4. Not great. Below average. T10, guitar sound better than the melody, more resolving than melody again. Vocals I like better than the melody. The melody just takes it to too much, takes it too dark, too warm. And I like warm slightly, but it's too much. Bass was a 4 on the T10 with this track. Mids were 7, treble 7, warm north of 2 notches north of neutral at a 7. Stage is 6 and resolution 6. F1, best bass, most resolving, correct guitar, and the pulls and the strums you could hear. The bass was an 8. Still not up to dynamic driver level, kind of where it should sound. Mids were a very nice 10, and treble was a 10. Warm, neutral, perfect, 5. Stage 7, resolution 10. So the planar-ishness coming out. The only one to really bring out the dynamics and the correct tonality was the F1 Pro. The others were too warm to replay this song correctly and pick up the subtle nuances of her voice and guitar. That's a really important point. If you're too warm on this track, that's what will happen. Okay, I fixed some lighting. My face was funny. It's always funny, but it was now less funny. There you go. Next song, The Funeral by Band of Horses. Gundam style. Melody. Smooth vocals, nice bass, 2 relaxed highs, misses the micro dynamics again. Bass 7, mid 7, treble 4, warm 10, stage 6, resolution 5. T10. Vocals sound less thick though, bigger sense of stage, really smooth highs, but seem to lack the bite. I think it's this song and this track and this IM would be best for a treble sensitive person, just a tad warm on vocals. And I rated the bass 5 out of 10, mids 9, treble 6, warm 6, stage 7, resolution 6. F1, Correct again. Vocals, neutral, not warm or thin. Best separation and guitar strums, most resolving. Best bass and microdynamics highs are now balanced in the mix and not dark like the other two. Again, F1 is the most accurate replay, but I find myself biasing my opinion when I come and I take into account the slightly warm signature of the T10. So for me, it's always a constant battle to be subjective because I like the slightly warmer, darker sound of the T10 and over the F1 without changing the cable tips and sources in this application. So though I think the F1 it was the most accurate, my bias kind of leans towards the way the T10 represents the song. So Till Forever Falls Apart, Ash Phineas. Melody, warm, thick, recessed piano. Nice bottom end, lush vocals. Bass, again, quite high, 8. Mid 6, treble 5. Warm 10. Stage is a 5 and resolution 5. The T10, slightly warmer vocals, more correct female and male vocals. Bass is lean, but balanced overall. So bass was 5, mid 7, treble 7, warm 6, stage 6, resolution 6. The F1. Female vocals, spot on. Lovely bass, lovely treble. Male vocals, still great and very resolving. Overall, F1 wins for correct replay and overall sound. The T10 came in third. And the melody, I just love the thick, lush vocals. Super colored, but they were awesome. I don't know, but at that point, me writing down, it was a repeat of every song that I listened to. Kind of went that same exact way. I could do a million songs, and they would all kind of say about the same. So let's sum up the overall 3. The T10, actually, I'll go with the melody. It had the most lush vocals, but missing enough of the highs to really lack the details and the correct tonality, especially for instruments. What Kiwiears did here is they chopped off the head, the treble head, and they made it too thick. For a planar, you should have at least played to the planar strengths, and unfortunately they kind of missed the boat on that one. Now the ARTTI T10, being the least expensive one, gave us a slightly warm tuning. The bass is thinner. It's missing the big hits and the impacts that the other two did, but it was probably quite the most balanced overall. Now, the F1, it had definitely the best bass, the closest to dynamic driver. The treble is very spot on, even with that setup. And the resolution killed all 3. Micro details, and overall, I would say the F1 is definitely the best tuned out of the 3. Best 4, right? This is a very good best 4. I would say also the melody was the best for extremely sensitive people. Or someone who really goes for darker tunings. And the best you could get out of the melody, in my opinion, was on a pure silver cable and a very resolving kind of forward, a little bit mid-forward, maybe on an ESS source. The T10. Who's this good for? Well, someone who is willing to give up a little bit of the micro details for the slightly more colored, warmer sound. Someone who likes a little bit tilt towards maybe a warmer tuning and a balanced IM. Now, how could I get the best of the T10? Well, a very resolving source, and again, an SPC cable, or the stock cable again was okay, but not the best pairing. I would just put that one on maybe an SPC cable with a little bit brighter. Find a little brighter cable. The F1 Pro. Here, who's this for? Someone who's going for accuracy. Authoritative bass, micro details, correct timbre and tonality, strings and instruments, vocals to be closer to source. And with that, again, on the Shootout, I think it was still probably the best sounding out of the three with that source and setup. Its best setup for me was the cyan cable that was the extra, JBC spiral dot tips and a warmer source. So then again, you could take the ARTTI T10 and sculpt it in a way to get closer to the F1, and you could take the F1 Pro and sculpt it to be a little bit smoother and warmer on the top end by using a warmer source and different tips as well. So there's quite a bit. The melody it's easier to tame highs with sources and cables and tips than it is to try to add. It's easier to subtract than it is to add in this case, and that's kind of what I found. So if we go back to the other thing too, which is value for money, price equation versus sound. One thing that I would say, if I had the F1 Pro sitting beside me on, again, its best synergy with cables and tips and sources, and I had the T10. Even though I still think this is the best planar that I've heard to date, with my bias, because I like it slightly warmer, slightly darker, I would pick up the T10. The other thing that is hard not to put into this equation in this Shootout is the price. So, you know, at $55.20 USD, really, really, really hard not to just say blind buy this. Unoffensive, super smoking deal. And the F1 Pro at $89 is still a banger. Absolutely. Though by the time you add the cables, you're up to like $120 US. So it's almost double the price that the ARTTI T10 for value wise, unless you're going for, you know, I think in my video, like I said, for the NiceHCK F1 Pro, it does all of the things I think in a planar in 2023, 2024 are trying to accomplish. Getting closer to the warm musicality of dynamic drivers and still playing to the strengths of planar. And it's lovely to see this kind of progression in the hobby for sure. That's it for this Shootout. I'm now going to spend some time and do a spider graph and put that up as well. And the spider graph will be a reflection of not individual songs as an individual score, but what I thought overall about the three to give you some kind of reference. And I hope that helps you out quite a bit. And I thank you much again for tuning in to my channel and watching me ramble on. Much appreciated. This is a Tone Deaf Monk. Out for now.